Hiya. So on this video, I just wanted to run people through what's going on with the energy crisis and costs, and hopefully give you a little bit of an insight into how you can figure out exactly what it's going to cost you. So yeah, we have all obviously heard that the cost of energy is kind of soaring and going through the roof at the moment. You know, we've had two lots of increases in the cap this year. So the one came in on the 1st of April, and then there's another one due to come in on the 1st of October. So I've just been through a little exercise in my business to figure out what that actually means for us, because it's all very well sort of saying, you know, the cost is going up, but you know, in real terms, what does it actually mean as far as you know, what effect is actually going to have on the cost of running the properties, and what's the cost on the effectively on the bottom line, and you know, are the properties you know, still going to be profitable come winter time? Because we all know that obviously with the you know, with our serviced accommodation business, that we see a drop off of business in the winter periods, and combine that with the you know, raising the increases in cost, it could get to a point where it's just you know, it's not sustainable. So you know, I just wanted to do a little exercise to look into it. So I just thought I'd share really what I'd been working on. So just it'll explain a little bit about what the price cap means, because I know the news keep kind of banding around these figures of thousands of pounds and all this sort of stuff. But essentially what it means is that the Ofgem, which is the you know, the governing body, basically put a cap on the amount that the energy companies can charge per unit of energy now, and also for the standing daily charge. So basically, to just explain it, it's kind of broken into two bits. So you get charged for the amount of energy that you use per, so for electricity, it's per kilowatt hour. And then you also get charged an amount each day for kind of having the you know, having the service, which they call the daily standing charge. So at the moment, since the 1st of April, the costs have been for electricity 28 pence per kilowatt hour, and for the standing charge has been 45p. So whether you're on a, I mean, you might be on a fixed you know, fixed package at the moment, which is actually less than that, but if you come out of your fixed package or you're taking on a new rate, then you know, since the 1st of April this year, those are the rates that you should be getting charged, or the maximum rates you're getting charged from your provider. You know, how much you actually use is obviously uncapped. So you know, although it's 28p per kilowatt hour, you know, if you're using more and more kilowatt hours, you're going to get charged more and more for those for that usage. And obviously the standing, you know, the standing daily charges, there's obviously so many days in each month, so you only get charged that rate. Now from the 1st of October, for electricity, those rates are going up to 52p per kilowatt hour and 46p per day for a standing rate. So you can see that, you know, the costs are going from 28p to 52p. So it's almost doubling again from the 1st of October. So it could, you know, obviously mean a huge increase in costs to us. Now I'm concentrating more at the moment on electricity, because the properties that I've literally just analysed only use electricity. We don't have any gas in those properties. But if you've got a property that has gas and electricity, then I would encourage you to go through both of them. So work out, you know, what your electricity usage is, and also work out what your gas usage is, and then work out, you know, what the rates are going to be from the 1st of October, because that's realistically when it's going to start to hurt a lot of people, I think, if you're outside of obviously fixed contracts. And most fixed contracts are probably aimed for a year, so you know, most people will be, I guess, will be coming out of them fairly soon. So the main thing to kind of, I suppose, say with this is, don't bury your head in the sand. Is, you know, you need to look into this, because if you've got properties that are you know, either on rent to rent or, you know, even if you own them, then you know, you have got a little bit of time before these you know, these costs kick in and start hurting you. But what you don't want to do is go through obviously the next quarter, you know, get sort of, you know, through to December, and then suddenly getting a huge bill through that, you know, effectively makes the profitability of the property you know, unsustainable. So so the first thing to say is, yeah, don't bury your head in the sand. Make sure you look into it so you can obviously do something about it. So and then yes, you can obviously then, you know, find out exactly what your exposure is going to be, and then plan for the future. And you know, and this is especially true. I mean, it's obviously relevant if it's just for your own home, you know, that you're trying to figure out what the costs are going to be. You can use the same sort of principle. But again, if you're running a rent-to-rent serviced accommodation business or a rent-to-rent HMO business, then this could have really serious ramifications on whether your properties are actually profitable. So what I'm going to do basically just run through the process that I kind of went through, just to sort of show you what I did. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see what I've been up to about this. So all I've really got here is the period. So generally bills or electricity bills, well, our provider anyway gives us our bills quarterly, and then we had a direct debit set up that basically then charges us on a monthly basis. And what they basically do is on the bill they tell you what your units were at the start of the period, what they were at the end of the period, and it will then give you the amount that you've used. So this is a bit like, if you like, it's a bit like the odometer in your car or the mileometer in your car. It basically just clocks the number of miles that you're doing. So at the start of a period, at the end of the period, and this is rather than clocking miles, it's basically just clocking the number of units that you've used. And when there's an E after it, it basically means that they've estimated the rate. So again, I don't know why they're estimating rate, because we're on smart meters, so there shouldn't be any reason why they're actually estimating rates, but for some reason they are. So again, take this, if they've estimated, take it with a pinch of salt, but it should be right going forward, because at some point they'll take a proper reading and then correct it. So this period, this first quarter of 2021, we used a total of 515 units. Now I've got this information basically from an old bill. So what you want to do first of all is log into your supplier's account, and you should be able to get a copy of your bill. Now you should be able to just download these if you haven't got the paper copies. Obviously, you've got the paper copies in the cupboard, then you might want to do this manually, just pull them out and put the information in. But if not, you should be able to download the last 12 months worth of bills basically from your supplier. So that's what I've done. So I've gone back 12 months. So this is 6th of August to the 4th of November 2021. The bill was produced on the 8th of November 21. It basically tells us obviously a bit about kind of what we've used and what our payments were. Now it's at the moment on this bill at that particular time we owed £782, which isn't entirely correct, because one, they've been estimating bills, and then they then try and forecast forward, and I'll come back to that in a little while about how inaccurate that can be. So if you scroll down a little bit, you should be able to find a page that says your charges. So basically this is basically where it tells you your readings on your meters. So start of the period 25012 estimated, last time end of the period 25527, so the amount that you've used. So all I've really done is just taken that, put it into the spreadsheet, and then it tells you here what your rates were at those times. So at this time we were paying 18.73 pence per kilowatt hour that we were using for the actual unit of electricity, and then our standing charge was 25.09p per day, so literally 25p per day for the privilege of having the electricity coming in. Obviously there was 91 days in that particular period, so it gave you this amount, and they charge VAT on top at 5%. This is the figure for that particular period. So all I've done is going back to the spreadsheet, all I've done is literally put these figures into the spreadsheet, figured out what the kilowatt hour, the price per kilowatt hour for the quarter would have been, and then I've just kind of wanted to work it out monthly. So I've taken that figure, I've then divided it by 3 to figure out what it would be for the quarter, added the standing charges on. So there's obviously in the month it's obviously 30 days at 25p, and added the VAT on, which basically gives us a figure of £40 for that month, per month in that quarter, just so I can work out what a monthly, because we tend to track our figures on a monthly basis. So I just want to know each month, how much is the electricity costing us in that particular property. And then here I've just kind of copied what it said on the bill, just so I've got a reference for that particular period of time. And then I've just really gone through the next 4 bills, so for the next 4 quarters, and done exactly the same. So if I just show you those. So this now shows you this next quarter, November to February, what the usage was going to be. So these are actual figures now, because there's not, none of this was estimated. It was actually the smart reader must have been working on these particular occasions, and and these are the units that we've used and the cost. So these are the total units that we've used in the month, sorry, in the quarter. And that gives you an annual figure here. So the total annually, we use 7,682 units in these properties, or in this property, and then figured out what the total cost would be for that period. And then this then just takes that total cost for the year and divides it by 12. So roughly, it should be £125 and 90p per month if we, if we averaged it out over the whole year. Now, the reason these get, this is so much higher, obviously, in these two periods, because these are the winter periods, and this particular property is on electricity only, so there's no gas coming to this property. So our electricity is going to be really high during the winter and actually quite low during the summer, because really all you're running during the summer is lights and TVs and bits and pieces. There's no sort of heavy usage really in the summer, but obviously during winter it's electrically heated heating system. So an electric powered heating system. So obviously the electricity is going to be a lot higher in the winter than it is in the summer. And going back to the kind of why we were in, they were basically saying we owed them this amount of money, kind of going, it's because they find it very difficult to estimate when when you've got such a shift from winter to summer. For some reason, they can't kind of figure out that actually your usage is going to go down in summer. Maybe they haven't twigged on that this property hasn't any gas, so I don't know, but there we are. It is what it is. So this gives us a figure for last year. So then literally all I'm going to do then is sort of say, right, well, roughly our usage, so the amount of units that we've used going forward for the next 12 months is pretty much going to be the same. So so what we basically do is then forecast this going forward. So if I just show you this going forwards, where are we? Okay, so same quarters, and I've just taken the usage. So that figure there was the last recorded figure, so I've used that as the start point. I then added on the average of what we've used in the two sort of kind of spring, summer to sort of autumn period. It averaged out about 619. So I said that's probably what we're going to use in this next quarter. And then done the same. So for winter, obviously, where the usage was a lot higher, I've sort of said, the average between these two figures here, it was 3,222. So I've used those for the two sort of winter periods. And then for the, again, like I say, for the spring to summer sort of period, I've sort of said it's about that. So it's given us a total usage of 7,682 units. And then what I've done is I've then multiplied it by the new rates. Now, this formula here looks really, really complicated. It's not that complicated. Basically, because of when the rate caps change, so we're on one unit of energy up until the end of September, and then it changes again. So for August and September, we're on one rate, and then for October, we're obviously on the new higher rate. So you can see here we've divided it by 3, then multiplied it by 2 essentially of the existing rate, which was 26.53 per unit, and then the new rate I'm assuming is going to be the highest rate, which is 52p. The energy company's not actually told us what the rate's going to be, but I'm going worst case scenario. So let's say it's going to be 52p per kilowatt, which is what the cap is essentially. So this gives me my worst case sort of scenario. So in August to November, my estimate is going to be for that period is going to be £216.77. And then per month in that period, it's going to be, I've added the VAT on here as well, so it's going to be £86.75. And I've done the same for the 2 winter periods, so November to February and then February to May. And you can see the jump, obviously, and the difference that it has. So I'm estimating per month, it's going to go up to £572 per month in these periods, from £241 in same period last year. And so you can sort of say between those two, what's that, an average of what, I don't know, £210, something like that, and it's going up to 570. So it's more than doubling the cost of our usage. So in the year, it's gone from our usage is about the same. So our usage is 7,682 units, 7,682 units. So our usage in the 2 years is about the same. But what we're forecasting going forwards is because the price caps have gone up so much, we're actually going to go from a cost of £1,510 to £4,084 this year. So, or sorry, next year. So what we've got to then look at is how sustainable is that within our business? Are we going to be able to absorb the cost, the average cost of energy going from £125 a month to £340 a month? Well, if you can obviously increase your average rates, so you're making kind of more profits, you're effectively passing the costs on to the consumer, then you might be able to get away with it. But in some places where margins are tight, there's a lot of competition, that sort of thing, you may not be able to pass that on. So it's something to certainly to start thinking about now. And as I said, I want to go through this exercise because I want to go into the winter periods, kind of eyes wide open, knowing exactly what my exposure in the business is going to be. And, if there's anything that I need to do to obviously put in place to change that. So that becomes a question of, well, what can you do? Well, obviously, clearly, you can't change the amount that you're paying per unit. I don't think there's any decent fixed deals out there at the moment. I think basically, we're going to be bouncing off the the cap rates by the looks of it. So I don't think there's actually much we can do from that sort of side of things. So then it comes down to, can you control the amount of energy that's being used? So sort of physically within the properties, can you make sure that your heating systems are efficient? Have you got smart controls in place so you can keep an eye on what the usage is? Have you got tenants or guests that are kind of whacking the heating up and then opening the windows or walking out the door, that sort of thing? The smart controls you can put in place where they can only boost the heating system for like an hour at a time, so they can't boost it and then kind of go out. So you can get, obviously, the thermostats that are in the building should be able to control what the temperature in the building is actually at. So if you've got a guest that likes to be or a tenant that likes to be nice and cozy and warm and likes to have their heating on at sort of 23, 24 degrees all the time, then you need to be having words with those tenants and sort of saying, look, you need some sort of fair usage policy in that property. Sort of say, look, 20, 21 degrees is kind of what you would expect it to normally be. If you want to be warmer than that, then invest in a jumper or something. Although the other side, so yeah, be more efficient with your energy usage. Put things like thermostatic controls on radiators. Do what you can to try and make the property more energy efficient. The other thing you could potentially do is look at things. Look at what contracts you've got in place. With your tenants. As I say, have you got sort of fair usage policies in there? Could you sort of say, like, we've allowed for X amount of electricity per month. Anything over that, you're going to become liable for. You probably can't do that with existing tenancies, but it's something you can probably introduce on new tenancies coming in. So just be aware of any new tenancies that you're coming in. Maybe start looking at entering or including fair usage policies in there. And I say for serviced accommodation guests. Make them aware of obviously these costs, and obviously you've included so much for energy. Try and obviously, as I say, try and slowly increase the rates if you can to make allowance for this, especially sort of in winter, which I know is difficult because obviously that's kind of historically the slowest time for serviced accommodation. Or then look at the contracts that you've got with your landlord. So if you've got some rent-to-rent properties, do you have exit clauses in there? So effectively, break clauses in the lease where you could maybe look at it and go, actually, this property just isn't going to be profitable for us going forward. Could we exercise a break clause and kind of get out? Or if the worst comes to the worst and you're tied into a contract and you can't get out of that rent-to-rent contract, is it a case of could you put a longer term guest in there that's going to cover the rental for you and then take over the responsibility of the bill? So effectively, the paying the bills is no longer your responsibility. It's now the tenant's responsibility. So I hope that helps. I know it's not, it's obviously not a great thing to be dealing with. Like, but as I say, it's best to go into these things eyes wide open, knowing exactly where you are. You know, don't bury your head in the sand and think it's going to go away, because it's not. You need to, you know, do something about it, take action on it now. If anybody wants a copy of the spreadsheet, it's only a really simple spreadsheet, but I'm happy to share that if you want, and you can obviously make your own alterations to it to suit your properties. Yeah, do the same obviously for gas and electricity. If obviously your properties have got both in there. So hope that helps. Speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye now.